canceled Thanksgiving plans after my parents called my wife's kids not real grandchildren. Now they're refusing to apologize, and things are unraveling fast. I, 32F, have been with my wife Ava, 34F, for 8 years now, married for 5. When we started dating, Ava was a single mom with 3 kids, 2 daughters, now 10 and 12, and a son, now 16. Over the years, I've been there for all the milestones, bedtime stories, first days of school, PTA meetings, you name it. These kids are my kids, and they've called me Mom for nearly 6 years. My brother Ivan, 28M, recently had a baby girl with his fiancée Sarah, 27F. I adore my niece, and my kids absolutely love their cousin. Since Ava and I got together, my kids have been the only grandchildren on my side of the family, and I've always believed my family fully embraced them as their own. My brother is their uncle, and my parents are their nana and pop. It's always felt like family. The other day, the kids and I were at my brother's house when my parents stopped by with gifts for my niece. Ivan joked that my niece was going to be spoiled, and my mom responded, "Well, she's our first grandchild. Of course, we have to spoil her." My youngest daughter looked visibly hurt, and while my older 2 didn't outwardly react, I could tell it bothered them. Sarah tried to clarify, saying, "Oh, you mean first grandbaby, not first grandchild." But my dad shook his head and said my niece was their first grandchild. At that point, I didn't want my kids to hear any more, so I handed my son my keys and told him to wait in the car with his sisters. Once they left, I asked my parents why they would say something like that, and my mom replied, "They're not really our grandchildren. They're not your real kids." I was floored. My wife and I were supposed to host Thanksgiving this year, but I told my parents that if they don't see my kids as family, they could host their own Thanksgiving with their real family. My family and I would spend the holiday together, without them. Since then, my brother has been upset, saying I overreacted and should try to see things from my parents' perspective. My mom texted me, claiming she and my dad love the kids, but still don't see them as their grandchildren. She added that she hopes we can move past this. So my niece's first Thanksgiving isn't ruined. I haven't responded. I stand by what I said, but I'm starting to wonder if I was too harsh. Additional info: I legally adopted all 3 kids 4 years ago. Even if I hadn't, they would still be my children in every way that matters. My wife's parents don't have a relationship with the kids. They stopped speaking to her when she came out. The kid's biological father isn't involved. He lost his parental rights before Ava and I even started dating. My youngest has never met him, my middle child doesn't remember him, and my oldest doesn't want anything to do with him. My parents chose to have the kids call them Nana and Pop. It wasn't something we forced on them. Update 6 days later. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like things are going to change anytime soon. My wife and I sat down with each of the kids separately to talk about Thanksgiving. We asked them how they felt about my parents, if they wanted to see them, and what they wanted to do. My son and oldest daughter both said they were mostly upset at my parents for hurting their youngest sister's feelings. They told us that if my parents apologized and made an effort to make things right with her, they'd be okay with seeing them. My 10-year-old, though, has taken this the hardest. For her, my parents are the only grandparents she's ever known, and this whole situation has been heartbreaking for her. My wife and I reassured her, and all of the kids, that none of this was her fault. We reminded her that she is equally our child, no matter what DNA says. She told us she didn't want to talk to my parents, but asked me to let them know she wasn't mad, just really hurt. I called my dad to explain how much his and my mom's words had hurt the kids, and I asked him to apologize to them for being inconsiderate. His response? He said they never meant to hurt the kids, but couldn't change the fact that they weren't really their grandchildren. He added that the kids shouldn't be upset by the truth. I hung up. I know I can't force them to see my kids as their grandchildren, but their lack of empathy and refusal to acknowledge the harm they've caused makes this so much worse. I texted my brother, apologizing if he felt like he was stuck in the middle of all this, but I made it clear that my kids are my priority, and I won't apologize for protecting them. Later, he reached out to say he understood. Apparently, his fiancée Sarah talked to him about it, because he apologized and said he'd like their daughter to spend Thanksgiving with us and her cousins. I also thanked Sarah separately for trying to smooth things over and salvage the situation. She's a total sweetheart, and I absolutely adore her. So, Thanksgiving is happening at my house this year, just without my parents. It's sad, but at the end of the day, my kids are my priority. I won't have them sitting at a table with people who can't show them even a little empathy or basic kindness.